What if I told you that everything you see in your life, every success, every struggle, every moment of joy or despair is nothing more than a reflection of what you have imagined? That the world around you is patiently waiting for the seed you plant in the hidden garden of your mind, and that the hour of harvest is closer than you think? You are always harvesting in this world, though you may not be aware of the seed you have sown. Every moment of imagination is a seed, and every event in your outer world is the harvest of some inner imagining. The great mystery of life is not that man imagines, but that man forgets that he imagines. The world you behold is but the outpicturing of your inner activity. What you call circumstances, people, and events are nothing more than crystallized imaginal acts. The invisible becoming visible, the inner becoming outer, the unseen becoming seen. And when the hour of harvest arrives, it does not come as surprise to the awakened one, for he knows it was he who sowed in the silence of his own mind. The harvest is not punishment, and it is not reward. It is the law unfolding itself in perfect impartiality. You cannot mock imagination. You cannot sow one thought and reap another, for the nature of the seed determines the nature of the fruit. If you have sown fear, you shall reap conditions that reflect fear. If you have imagined abundance, love, and peace, you shall reap a harvest of the same kind. The moment you dare to assume that you are what you want to be, that moment you plant a seed in the garden of your mind. It may not appear immediately, but the law is faithful. Every imaginal act will ripen in its appointed hour. The tragedy of life is that man waits for the harvest without realizing he is the sower. He waits for life to change without changing his inner conversations. He watches the field and prays for new fruit, while within he continues to sow weeds. And when the harvest comes, he calls it fate, destiny, luck, or misfortune. But nothing appears by accident. Nothing grows in your world that was not first imagined. The world is but yourself pushed out, bearing witness to what you have entertained in the secret of imagination. Imagination is the only reality, the creative cause of all that appears. Every act of imagining, no matter how small, is a seed sown in consciousness, and every seed contains within itself the pattern of its fulfillment. The thoughts, moods, and assumptions you persist in are the invisible energies shaping the conditions of your life. To the degree that you control your imagination, you control your destiny. To the degree that you allow others, fear, or circumstance to direct your inner vision, you surrender the creative power that is your divine inheritance. There comes an hour, an invisible moment, when the seed breaks open and the harvest begins to show itself. You may not remember the moment you imagined it, but you will meet it. The harvest is never lost. It only appears in its own season. That's why you must watch your inner speech, your assumptions, your mental conversations. These are the sowing moments, the hidden gestures that command the unseen forces of life to take shape and form in your world. Do not look to tomorrow for the evidence. Do not strain to see results. Simply dwell in the end, live from the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and let the law do its work. For imagination fulfills itself in perfect order, not according to your impatience, but according to its eternal rhythm. The moment you feel that you already are what you desire to be, that moment your harvest is secured. The world must rearrange itself to mirror the state you have entered in imagination. The fool looks to the outer world and says, I will believe it when I see it. But the wise one knows you will see it when you believe it, for believing is seeing, and imagination is the womb of all manifestation. The hour of harvest is not some distant event. It is now every moment that imagination solidifies into fact. Each encounter, each conversation, each opportunity is the unfolding of an imaginal act once accepted as true. You are the farmer of your own destiny. Your mind is the soil. Your imagination is the seed. Your feeling is the moisture that gives life to the seed. And your world is the field that bears witness to your cultivation. If your harvest displeases you, do not curse the field. Change the seed. Withdraw attention from what you dislike and plant a new vision in imagination. Persist in it with faith, with inner conviction, and you will reap accordingly. For persistence in an assumption, though denied by the senses, will bring that assumption to pass. Everything in your world is the fruit of a forgotten imagining. The delays, the disappointments, the triumphs, all of them are harvests. But man is so fascinated by appearances that he forgets his creative power. He looks at the harvest and tries to change it without changing the cause. He trims the branches of a tree without touching the root, and then wonders why the same fruit grows again. But if you change the imaginal seed, the outer fruit must also change, for it is bound by law to the inner cause. The law never sleeps, never forgets, never fails. Every assumption, if persisted in, will harden into fact. That is the moment of harvest, when imagination fulfills itself, when the invisible word becomes flesh. The world is your mirror, showing you continually what you are imagining. Do not condemn what you see. Use it as a reminder to revise. Every night, enter the silence and rewrite the day in your imagination as you wish it had been. Feel it real until your heart rests in the joy of fulfillment. Then sleep in that state, for imagination, impregnated by feeling, will bring forth its likeness. The harvest may not always come through the channel you expect, but it will come in ways that reveal the perfect intelligence of the unseen. The world will bend itself to make your assumption real. Men and women, circumstances and events will move in harmonious obedience to your inner vision. What you call coincidence is simply the law expressing itself through perfect order. The moment you stop doubting, the moment you rest in the knowing that your assumption is true, the seed begins to quicken. It does not need your effort. It needs your faith. You do not dig up the seed to check if it is growing. You trust the process. So too with your desires. Assume it is done and walk in that assumption. Let your imagination feed on the reality of fulfillment, not the shadow of lack. For where your attention dwells, there you water the seed of your experience. There will always come a time when the imaginal act, long forgotten, appears before you clothed in reality. That moment may shock you or delight you, but it will come. You may say, I never would have thought this possible, and yet it was your own thought that caused it. Nothing is impossible to the imagination, for imagination is the divine creative power. It fulfills itself in exact proportion to your faith in it. To the unawakened, life seems uncertain, full of chance and struggle. To the awakened, life is ordered, inevitable, just. He knows the harvest will come because he has already sown the seed. He does not beg, he imagines. He does not chase, he assumes. He does not doubt, he rests in the feeling of accomplishment. And the world mirrors that rest by unfolding in perfect alignment with his inner conviction. You must dare to imagine boldly, to assume courageously, and to persist faithfully. Your imagination is the doorway to creation. The hour of fulfillment is always near, for in truth it is already accomplished. You are merely walking through the shadow of your own imaginal acts, meeting the harvest of your former states. The law never fails, and imagination never forgets. The harvest is sure. Continue to live from the end. Continue to see yourself as already possessing what you desire. Continue to give thanks for the unseen reality that even now is taking form. And when the hour strikes, when imagination fulfills itself, you will know that all things were truly finished in imagination before they appeared in the world. Every dream begins in stillness. Every miracle is first whispered in imagination before it thunders into fact. When you learn to still the outer senses and live inwardly in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are no longer waiting for harvest. You are living in it. The invisible act of assuming that you are already what you long to be is the only creative act there is. To imagine is to sow. To feel it real is to give it life. And to persist is to guarantee the harvest. You need not know the how, nor the when, nor the who. The law of being will clothe your assumption in a body of reality that fits your world perfectly. You are only asked to believe that what you imagine with. Conviction is already true. Every event of your life is a testimony to your imaginal activity. There are no exceptions. What you repeatedly accept as true within you shapes the outer scene. Even what you call problems are the ripened fruit of yesterday's inner doubts and fears. But do not despair, for just as the old harvest passes away, so too can a new seed be planted now. You can change the very fabric of your world this moment by entering a new assumption. Close your eyes to what is and see inwardly what you wish to see. Feel its reality so deeply that the outer world fades in importance. When you rise from that inner vision, walk as though it were already accomplished, and life will conspire to mirror that inner certainty. The outer world is slow to move, only because man is impatient with his own creations. He doubts the unseen and clings to appearances. But faith is the bridge between seed and harvest, between imagination and manifestation. You must have faith that your imaginal act contains within itself everything necessary for its fulfillment. Just as the acorn knows how to become the oak, your assumption knows how to externalize itself in divine order. You cannot hasten it by worry or delay it by fear, except insofar as you persist in entertaining those states. The law of imagination is exact, impartial, and unfailing. What you feel and assume to be true, you will meet in your world. Many call this law mysterious, but it is the most natural thing in the world. You have experienced it countless times. You imagine a friend calling you, and within hours the phone rings. You picture a place you desire to visit, and suddenly the opportunity appears. You think of someone with emotion, and they cross your path. These are not accidents. They are the ordinary expressions of the law at work. Every imaginal act is creative, and every feeling impresses the invisible substance of life. The more vivid the feeling, the quicker the harvest to master. This art is to live consciously. It is to refuse to let the senses dictate your reality. The senses only report what you have previously imagined. If you wish to change the report, change the imagination from which it flows. When you enter the state desired, when you live in imagination as though your dream were already true, you have sown the seed. Now your task is to remain faithful to that assumption. Do not uproot it by doubt or contradiction. Do not look to the outer world for confirmation, for the outer world must first be transformed by the invisible cause. Live in the end until the end lives in you. The greatest secret is to feel it real. You can imagine endlessly without result if your imagination is cold, detached, and mechanical. But the moment you feel the reality of your desire, the warmth of fulfillment, the satisfaction of having the seed is planted in fertile ground. Feeling is the secret of all creation. What you feel deeply, you become. What you feel persistently, you express. The hour of harvest comes when your feeling has matured into fact, when what was inwardly accepted is outwardly confirmed. There is no distance between imagination and fulfillment. There is only awareness. When you are aware that you are now what you wish to be, Your outer world rearranges itself to reflect that inner awareness. Do not think the world resists you. It obeys you perfectly. The resistance you feel is only the friction between your new assumption and your lingering belief in the old one. Persist until the new feeling becomes natural and the old one fades into nothingness. Then you will find that life seems effortless, for it flows from the state you occupy within. Everything moves on the frequency of your inner state. If you dwell in lack, you attract the conditions of lack. If you dwell in abundance, you attract abundance. The harvest always matches the nature of the seed. You cannot imagine poverty and live in wealth. You cannot imagine rejection and experience love. But if you will persist in the assumption of wealth, of love, of peace, even when the evidence denies it, you will harvest exactly what you have imagined. The outer world has no choice but to mirror the conviction of your inner world. There is an appointed hour for every seed to bear fruit. You may imagine today and see no outward change tomorrow, but the law is working in silence. Beneath the surface, invisible roots are forming, connections are being made, unseen pathways are opening. Then suddenly, what was invisible burst forth into view. You call it sudden, but it was growing all along. The moment you accepted the feeling of the wish fulfilled, creation was finished. What follows is only the visible unfolding of what is already accomplished in imagination. Never despise small beginnings. The smallest imaginal act can bring forth the greatest transformation. A quiet moment of faith can overturn years of limitation. One inner vision held with conviction can reshape an entire life. The outer world is not fixed. It is fluid, obedient to the tones of your imagination. Speak the word within yourself, not in vain repetition, but with inner certainty, and the word will take form. Life hears the feeling behind your words, not the sound of them. It responds to your conviction, not your petition. The harvest does not require struggle. It requires alignment. When you are inwardly aligned with the state desired, everything necessary for its fulfillment comes naturally. You are drawn to the right place, the right people, the right moment without conscious effort. It may appear miraculous, but it is only the perfect order of imagination fulfilling itself. When you cease trying to make things happen and begin to feel that they already have, you step into the current of divine flow. You become a living witness to the power of imagination to transform reality. All through life, man walks amid his own creations, unaware that he himself imagined them into being. He complains of what he sees, forgetting that he is the cause. But when you awaken, you no longer complain. You revise. You take the unwanted scene, and in imagination you transform it. You rewrite the event as you wish it to be, and you feel it real until your heart accepts it as truth. Then you rest. You need not fight the outer shadow, for it must conform to the inner revision. The true harvest is not only in the change of circumstance, but in the awakening of awareness, the realization that you are the operant power. Once you taste that realization, you can never again be a victim of appearances. You understand that nothing happens to you. Everything happens through you. You become deliberate in your imaginal acts, careful in your inner speech, generous in your assumptions of good. You begin to imagine lovingly for others, knowing that their world, too, is shaped by imagination. And the harvest of love returns multiplied for whatever you imagine for another. You also imagine for yourself. There is no limit to the power that lies within imagination. It is the creative light of consciousness itself. It creates worlds and sustains them. Every desire is an invitation to awaken that power, to prove that imagination fulfills itself. When you desire something, it is life's way of saying, enter this state and see it made real. You are not waiting for the future. You are creating the future now. You are selecting the reality you wish to experience and impressing it upon the eternal substance of imagination. The rest is the Lord's work, the silent, perfect, inevitable fulfillment. The harvest is always a reflection of your inner state. What you see in the world is but a faithful echo of what you have accepted in your imagination. If your outer conditions seem harsh, it is only because your inner assumptions have been harsh. If your world seems small, it is because your imagination has been limited. But know this: the power to change your outer reality rests entirely in your hands. The invisible mind is your canvas, and imagination is your brush. Whatever you paint with feeling and conviction will inevitably take shape in the world around you. Do not allow yourself to be fooled by appearances. Circumstances are not permanent. They are fluid, mutable, obedient to the states of consciousness you occupy. The moment you imagine a new reality, the old one begins to dissolve and the new one begins to take its place. You are not waiting for things to happen. You are waiting for yourself to persist in the assumption of the desired state until it becomes dominant. This is the secret of the harvest. It is already done within, and the world must obey. You cannot force the harvest, but you can prepare the soil. Preparation is nothing more than the faithful cultivation of your imagination. Enter the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Live in the state that corresponds to your desire. Speak inwardly the words that align with your reality as you would have it. Every thought, every feeling, every mental conversation is planting seeds. When you persist in this inner work, the harvest cannot fail to appear. The law does not know how to fail. It only knows how to fulfill what you accept as true. Many people give up too soon. They imagine a desired state for a moment, feel doubt creep in, and turn back to the familiar world of limitation. But every persistent act of imagination carries its own power, and even the smallest seed, if faithfully nurtured, will eventually ripen. Think of the oak that grows from the acorn. The acorn does not struggle to become the oak. It simply unfolds according to its inner pattern. So too with your imagination. What you assume inwardly with feeling must inevitably unfold outwardly. Do not be discouraged by delays. Time is only a surface phenomenon. In the invisible world, all is already accomplished. The harvest is inevitable, but it appears in your experience only when the seed has matured in consciousness. You may sow today and see nothing tomorrow, but rest assured that the Lord is working silently, imperceptibly, to bring your assumption to life. Every condition you encounter is simply a stage in the unfolding of your imaginal act. The key is to remain faithful to your assumption, to refuse to be swayed by appearances. The feeling of fulfillment is the lever of creation. When you feel it now, when you embody it in imagination, you have set the law into motion. You do not ask the world to conform. You merely dwell in the state of your desire, and life responds. The law never debates. It simply obeys the dominant assumption. And the dominant assumption is always revealed in the outer world. That is why persistence in feeling is essential. The more you rest in the reality of your wish fulfilled, the faster and more complete the harvest will be. Do not be concerned with method. Some search for techniques, rituals, or formulas, believing that these are the keys to manifestation. But the truth is simple. Assumption plus feeling equals creation. Enter the state of the wish fulfilled. Feel it real. Persist. The law will do the rest. Your only task is to be faithful to your inner world, to guard it, to cherish it, to live in it as though it were already fact. The moment you do, the invisible becomes visible, and the hour of harvest arrives. Imagination is the womb of all creation. Every event, every circumstance, every encounter is born there first. Nothing exists in the outer world that was not conceived in the mind. You may call it chance, luck, destiny, or coincidence, but these are merely words for the unfolding of the law. The cause is always within, the effect is always without. To change your will, change your assumption, to shape your destiny, shape your imagination, to reap a new harvest, sow a new seed inwardly. Do not neglect the small things. The ordinary moments of life are filled with seeds of greatness. If only you will see them, a quiet thought, a feeling of gratitude, a moment of faith, each is a seed. And every seed has the potential to grow into magnificent fruit. Never underestimate the power of imagination in these small, seemingly insignificant acts. They are the hidden currents that carry the harvest to your door. Persist in them, cherish them, nourish them. The harvest is never delayed. It is always present, waiting for the seed to reach maturity. What you call delay is only your impatience, your insistence on seeing the outer evidence before the inner reality is complete. But if you will dwell in the end, if you will feel your wish fulfilled now, you are living in the harvest even before it appears. You are walking in the invisible fulfillment. And when the outer world finally catches up to your inner state, it will appear as a sudden miracle, a perfect unfolding, a confirmation of the law's faithful obedience. All outer circumstances are mirrors of your inner assumptions. If your world seems chaotic, it is a reflection of your own inner turmoil. If your life seems limited, it is a reflection of the limits you have imposed upon your imagination. Change the inner assumption, and the outer world will follow. This is not theory, it is law. And law is impartial, exact, and unerring. It never questions, it never falters, it never fails. It only fulfills what you assume to be true. You are always in the process of creating your world. Every thought, every feeling, every mental picture is planting seeds. Some seeds are fruitful. Some seeds bear bitter fruit. Be careful, therefore, what you accept inwardly. Guard your imagination as a treasure, for it is the source of all that will appear in your life. Enter the night with the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Enter the day with the assumption that all is accomplished. In this way, you become the conscious sower of your own destiny. Persistence is the key to transformation. You may imagine once, you may imagine twice, and the harvest may seem delayed. But continued assumption with feeling strengthens the seed, nourishes it, and brings it closer to ripeness. Do not despair if the world does not immediately reflect your desire. Trust the law, trust the process. Trust the invisible intelligence that works through your imagination to bring your vision into manifestation. The harvest is certain for those who persevere. Everything you desire is already within you. The world is simply catching up. The harvest is simply the outward evidence of an inward fact. Live now as if it is done. Feel now as if it has already been accomplished. Speak inwardly as if your desire were a reality. Let this feeling dominate your consciousness, and life will respond, inevitably, perfectly, and beautifully. The hour of harvest is simply the moment when imagination fulfills itself, and it is always near when you live in assumption. The world cannot resist imagination. It obeys the state you occupy. When you enter a state of abundance, love, peace, or health, you create the conditions that match it. The world does not need convincing. It only reflects. The mirror never lies. And you, as the conscious creator, hold the key. By persistent assumption, by faithful dwelling in the end, by feeling it real, you are planting seeds that cannot fail. The harvest is already yours. It only remains for the outer to catch up with the inner. And so, let this be your unwavering truth. The harvest is not something that comes from outside. It is the natural unfolding of what you have sown in the fertile soil of your imagination. Every thought you cherish, every feeling you dwell in, every assumption you persist in is a seed, and the world around you is simply the faithful reflection of those seeds brought to life. Do not wait for circumstances to change. Do not beg for miracles from the outer world, and do not chase what is already yours. Instead, turn inward. Assume the state of fulfillment. Dwell in the reality of your desires, and watch as life itself rearranges to meet you there. The power you seek is not in luck, in timing, or in the hands of others. It is in you, waiting to be acknowledged, awakened, and exercised. The law never fails, and imagination never forgets. Your outer world is merely the echo of your inner state, and your inner state can always be consciously directed. You are the sower, the cultivator, and the reaper. You are the author of your reality, and the harvest is inevitable when you persist in the assumption of your highest vision. Remember this: your imagination is sacred. Your feeling is the water that nourishes it, and your persistence is the sunlight that allows it to grow. Do not abandon your vision for the sake of appearances. Do not compromise your assumption for the illusions of the moment. Live as if your desire has already been fulfilled. Feel it, know it, embody it, and the world will bow in obedience. The hour of fulfillment is always near for those who dare to believe in the invisible, who persist in the unseen, and who live in the certainty of what is to come. You are the miracle maker, the dream fulfiller, the conscious creator. Step boldly into the life you have imagined. Trust the perfect intelligence of the law, and reap the harvest that is your divine inheritance. The world will meet you exactly where your imagination has placed you, and nothing can prevent the fruition of what you have sown with faith, feeling, and unwavering conviction. This is the ultimate truth. Imagination is the seed, feeling is the soil, persistence is the sun, and the harvest is inevitable. Live wisely, imagine boldly, and harvest gloriously.